So many young men these days dream of being millionaires, but anytime they try some business idea that they see online, it never works. And they wonder why. Because what they don't realize is that they first need the right mindset before they can actually go about making money in the first place. In this video, I am going to walk you through all the 13 principles Napoleon Hill talks about in his book called Think and Grow Rich. And I promise you that if you pay attention and use everything I talk about here, you will be a millionaire in the next couple of years. So if you watch this entire video from start to finish and you ingrain every principle in your head, you will become unbelievably rich, and your life will change forever. That is my promise for you today, and knights don't break promises. Principle number 1, desire. This is the first step toward achieving tremendous wealth. In this principle, the author talks about how desire works and that desire isn't supposed to just be a wish or a hope. It has to be a burning obsession backed by definiteness and persistence. And in this chapter, he mentions a really interesting story, which I want to share with you today. It is a legend about a commander who arrived at the shore of an enemy territory who he knew were far more powerful than his army. And so he ordered his soldiers to burn the ships they came with, so that they have no other choice other than to win or perish. And thanks to this motivation of having no return, his soldiers managed to win the war even though they were outnumbered. The reason the commander did this is because he knew that if his soldiers had no way of escaping, they will fight much harder because they had no other choice. So you must remember that in order to be successful, you must be willing to burn the boats. You must be willing to do whatever it takes to get what you want. The state of mind must be belief, not mere hope or a wish. In this chapter, Hill also talks about the 6-step process we can follow to increase our desire for wealth. Number 1, fix in your mind the exact amount of money you desire. This number cannot be vague. It must be a specific amount of money. Don't just say, "Oh, I want to be rich." You must have the exact amount of money in mind. Number 2, determine exactly what you will give in return for that money. So for example, how hard you are willing to work, or how much time are you willing to invest. Number 3, establish a definite date that you want to be in possession of that money. Number 4, create a plan for obtaining the money and begin immediately. Number 5, take steps 1 to 4 and write them down as a statement on a piece of paper. And number 6, read this statement twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening. Doing this will help you keep your mind on the goal and make sure your desire for riches does not get distracted. I really want you to do this action step right now because we are going to use it in the later steps of this video. Principle number 2 is faith. This chapter talks about the importance of belief and your subconscious thoughts, because faith is one of the most powerful forces in the world. You are never going to achieve the success you desire if you do not believe you can. Thoughts are so powerful that the things you think about on a day-to-day basis are planted as seeds in your subconscious mind, and they eventually become reality. And so if you are the type of person who thinks negative thoughts, saying that making money online is impossible or that you are not smart enough to be rich, those beliefs will manifest themselves into reality, and you are never going to achieve success even if you try. And the reason that works isn't because of some weird voodoo shit that your thoughts will spiritually transcend into reality. No, it's just that the thoughts and beliefs you have about yourself make you act differently. So for example, when a fat guy keeps saying that he can't get fit because it's just genetic, he is gonna act differently after that. And he is going to start eating more because he already has the belief that he is fat and he can't do anything about it. And so when you say negative things about yourself, they become true. And therefore, if you are a young man who wants to achieve success, you have to only have positive thoughts that convince you that you can reach your goals. And the way to make sure that you get these thoughts more often is to forcefully implant them in your brain. So when you catch yourself thinking negatively, you stop and you forcefully get yourself to say something positive about how you can actually achieve your goals. Principle 3, autosuggestion. Here is where the author expands more on how to force your mind to generate more positive thoughts that will lead you to success. For this principle, you will need the statement we talked about in principle number 1. He says to find a quiet place where you take only the statement and nothing else, and you continuously read it to almost trick your mind into thinking that you already have the money that you want to have. If you do this, your mind will naturally start coming up with more and more ideas for how to get the money. But doing this once is useless. That's easy, and everyone can do that. But only the richest are able to do this every single day with the maximum amount of concentration. So remember, the more you do this, the deeper your desire will be for your goal amount of money. Principle number 4, specialized knowledge. Here, Hill talks about how wealth is often generated by having some sort of specialized knowledge. However, knowledge won't give you wealth by itself. Knowledge is power, and when you don't know how to use it, it is useless. In this chapter, Hill suggests that you do not just learn and then take action later, but rather learn while already taking action. This will help you save time and also learn much more in the process, because when you implement something, you are more likely to remember it. Principle 5, imagination. In this chapter, Napoleon Hill explains how imagination is almost like a workshop for coming up with ideas. He also explains how there are two forms of imagination: synthetic imagination and creative imagination. Synthetic imagination is the ability to take old concepts and turn them into new ones. This is, for example, what I am doing with these videos. I take an old video or some book, and I make a video about it with my own spin on it. So synthetic imagination is essentially innovation. Now, creative imagination is coming up with your own ideas. This is usually how some revolutionary ideas come to mind. I sometimes do this too with my videos, but what you need to understand, especially if you go into the same business model as me, your creative imagination is much slower than your synthetic one. So if you only rely on the creative one to come up with ideas, you will be slow. And again, to tap into one of these processes of imagination, you need to have that statement from the first principle, because that's when the best ideas come to mind. Principle 6, organized planning. In this principle, Hill talks about the importance of having a plan to achieve riches. He says that the reason most people never achieve the riches they desire is because they don't have a plan. This is a very simple principle that many people fail to implement. They think, oh, I'll just work on this for a while and then figure out what to do along the way. And that is wrong. You must have the complete plan set out beforehand, and every action you take has to align with it. If you don't do this, you are like a man who goes on a road trip without a map. You might get to where you want to go, but the chance of that is very little. So remember, you cannot get to where you want to go if you do not know which way it is. The plan might change along the way as you get more experience, but you should still have some sort of an outline to figure out which way to go. Principle 7, decision. In this principle, Hill talks about how the rich make decisions. He says the rich make definite decisions quickly but change them slowly. On the other hand, people who fail to accumulate wealth either change their decisions way too quickly or take too long to make the first decision. The people who do not end up making money in business first take too long to even start, and once they start, if they even do, they get shiny object syndrome. They see some video online of a guy talking about the business model he is doing, and they immediately stop the one they are currently doing and start the different one, only to realize it was not as easy as they thought and that it was going to take longer than they expected. And so they find another one which seems like it's going to be quicker, only to repeat the same process over and over again. They keep jumping from business model to business model, and therefore they end up making no progress. So what you need to understand is that making money in a business will take time, especially in the ones where you have to start from scratch. Most people don't make money even in their first year, so you have to be patient, make your decisions quickly, and change them slowly. Once you pick something, change it only after some deep thought. And as you do this, you are not going to be the only one who distracts you from what you want to do. The people around you, like your friends or family, will also try to tell you, oh, you should try this and this and this. And while they aren't saying those things with bad intent, their comments can make you doubt what you are doing even more. So make sure other people do not influence your desire, because they can make you doubt yourself even more than you can. Principle 8, persistence. In this principle, Hill talks about the importance of persistence and how you need it in order to accumulate wealth. Persistence is the ability to keep going no matter what setbacks you encounter. Lack of persistence is one of the most common reasons most people fail in business. The most successful men out there have ruthless persistence. No failure can bring them back. They are dedicated to what they are doing. They know that every failure gets them closer to their goals, and they view failure not as a setback, but rather as another step. They know that if they try their very best and never quit, they cannot actually fail. And you may be wondering, well, yeah, that sounds nice, but how do I develop persistence? And this all comes back to the first principle. You must have the burning desire to achieve your goals. Principle 9, the power of a mastermind. In this principle, Hill suggests that in order to accelerate your money-making progress, you should find other people who have the exact same business model as you. Because when you have other people around you with the same desire as you and you talk to each other and share your ideas, it's almost like you form one mind. And as you might have guessed, this mind knows much more than if you were to do it just by yourself. Hill suggests that the mastermind should consist of anywhere from 2 to 12 members. So in order to achieve the success you desire, you need to start finding like-minded people. I think the best way to find like-minded people is through outreach, because you know exactly who you are going to be dealing with. But chances are, you may not know exactly who you want to reach out to. So you can do the other method, which is to join some online communities, like for example the Wisdom Clan, which is my community, and you can join it with the first link in the description. And there you just ask questions to see if anyone is interested. Principle 10. Sexual Transmutation. In this principle, the author talks about how we all have this sexual force inside of us, and most people choose to waste this desire in mind stimulants like porn. He says that the most successful men preserve this sexual energy and rather use it to work harder. And this is definitely true, right? Think about those days when you haven't fapped in a while. You had much more of that masculine drive to make progress on your goals. You were much more productive, and everything was just easier. And so I think that if you are a young guy who wants to be successful, you should start thinking more about this sexual energy and preserving it. Don't obsess too much about it because then it becomes a problem, but just be aware of it. Principle 11. The subconscious mind. Here, Napoleon Hill explains how exactly our subconscious mind works. He says that your subconscious mind is like a package of everything that happens around us. Everything we see, hear, touch, smell, and taste. Your subconscious mind works like this so that we can remember stuff. And we can use this to our advantage by applying the third principle of autosuggestion. We use autosuggestion to implant seeds into our subconscious minds that fuel our burning desire for riches. Negative emotions like fear, jealousy, hatred, revenge, greed, superstition, and anger are usually our default states. They come to our mind automatically, and so we need to learn to replace them with positive emotions like desire, faith, love, sex, enthusiasm, and hope. There can't be both in our mind. You can't have negative and positive thoughts in your mind at the same time. You can only have one. So if you master Principle 3, which is autosuggestion, you can completely transform your mind to think like a rich person. Principle 12, the brain. To be honest, this principle was mostly saying the same advice from previous chapters, so I'll skip this one. Principle 13, the sixth sense. This principle is talked about as the apex of philosophy and can only be applied once you master all the other principles. He talks about how it is the key to something called infinite intelligence. We can think of it as almost like a guardian angel that can guide us towards making better decisions. It is something only the most experienced businessmen develop. You can only get something like this after you master business. And that is something I want to leave you with today. If you implement all of the principles, you will literally be able to make decisions, and all of them will be right. Well, anyway, make sure you subscribe. Share this video with a friend who wants to get rich. Join the Wisdom Clan with the first link in the description. If you really like these videos and you want to help me make them better, click on the join button and become a clan member. Make sure you implement everything you've learned today, and bye.